Welcome to Canucks After Dark. Here are your hosts, Parker Hallowell and Clay Emo.
Good evening, Vancouver, and welcome to the Season 1 finale of Canucks After Dark here on Wednesday, September 8th. We have a wonderful show for you guys tonight. As always, joined by my co-host, Canuck Clay. How are you doing this week, sir?
I am doing fine. I can't believe we are at the end of Season 1, but I guess that makes sense if we want to kick off with our return to Monday nights, much anticipated return. But in anticipation of that, non-hockey wise, things are good. Parker started my next course for my master's, so gonna have to be a little bit more proper when it comes to time management. Gail's and all three kids back at school, of course. So it's been a week of transition, and but things are good. Things are good. I hope you are doing well as well.
And the crazy thing is we're ending Season 1 of this show that we didn't start creating until April 12th. And so the Canucks probably only played, how many games do you think the Canucks played since we started the show? It's not a lot. It was probably
a dozen or less. Exactly.
So
yeah.
We are, I think this is our 23rd episode of our show or something like that. I can get the actual number here. Yeah, this is our 23rd episode, which we'll be using to end Season 1 next year, for the 2021-2022 season. I'm sure it'll be, 55 episodes or so if we have those extra ones interspersed every once in a while like we did this year. But so far it's been a lot of fun, and we do have some stuff to talk about tonight. We have a bit of stuff around the Vancouver Canucks, around the NHL. As always, we're going to do our Don't Do That segment at around 10:30, ideally. And we'll get your topics, your questions for the last 15 minutes or so of the show. And we'll also talk about what we're going to do for Season 2, which starts on Monday. You won't want to miss that show. That is for sure.
No, you said, Parker, that all of that sounds really good, by the way. You said this is show number 23. So are we calling this the Alex Edler show or the Oliver Ekman-Larsson show?
Well, it's a new era, but this is Season 1 still. So I think this is the Alex Edler episode.
Okay, I'll go with that.
Next year, it'll be the Ekman-Larsson
sounds good
episode. Today, we're going to start off with a wonderful topic that we have hit on many times when, it's really the dominant news story in the Canucks market for the last 4 months, really, or maybe longer, maybe less. But that's obviously the contracts of Elias Pettersson and Quinn Hughes. And I know we've talked about this, like I said, a dozen times, but we actually got a few nuggets of information. We're not going to spend too much time on it. The biggest one, though, coming out is that potentially Quinn Hughes might be getting more term while Elias Pettersson might be on the bridge side. Now, we've thought in the past that it's going to be, both of them getting bridge deals. Before that, it was kind of the other way around. Yeah. What are your thoughts on sort of the late developments here?
Well, even before, I'm giggling, Parker, because we didn't have that much time to chat today before. But today, actually, I had plans to do a video on this because whenever you run out of things to talk about this offseason, this is a go-to topic that people are still interested in, right? So I had this in mind, and then my good friend, he's in there, the legend himself, John, Hot Take Hockey. He actually reached out and said, would you want to do this video on PD and Hughes? And I said, sure. So he did a great video on it, not because I'm in it, because of his own insight. I did my own video, and now we're doing it. So 3 times today talking about it, all to say, you know how we said, let's not worry about it till we get closer to training camp? I'm getting it not like this much worried, like a little bit. Just
this is how the whole Travis Green situation went for me last year when people were starting like in November, right? Like the team didn't play till January. People were talking November on the radio, like, oh, Travis Green's in the last year of his contract. He doesn't have a contract. Like, guys, we've got 7 months for this to get sorted out. But then every month you have one less month. And, it slowly ticked away. And then we got to the point where Travis Green was basically an unrestricted free agent. So, we're kind of getting to that. And I did keep saying, as long as they're signed by training camp. Yeah. But remember, 2 weeks ago when I said that, there was 14 more days for that to, it was a 28-day window. And now it's more of a 14-day window. Yeah. I'm still not worried. I'm not going to be worried until, when does training camp start? The 23rd?
Yes. 2 weeks tomorrow.
I will be worried on the 20th is when I'll start to get worried. And I say that I'll be worried next week.
And we'll have a show that night on the 20th, so we can gauge each other's worriedness. And I'm totally with you about the moving goalposts because, as you know, we've always also said on here, well, Bo Horvat wasn't signed until September 8th. Brock Besser wasn't signed until September. I don't know why I'm dancing like this. Until September 16th. But then some guy commented on my video today, yeah, you keep saying that, Clay, but that was one guy each year. We're talking about our two guys that are our franchise players. I said, yeah, that's a good point.
But you do say there are franchise players, and that is fair, right? These are the two of the best players on the team. But when that Horvat contract was signed, when that Brock Besser contract was signed, those were also our franchise players at the time, right?
Yep.
So it is kind of the same boat, just there's two to do instead of one, and they both kind of put pressure on each other, and double the panic, double the fun. It's always exciting being a Canucks fan.
And I realized, Parker, I never even answered your question because I got so excited about talking about this topic. Yes, you're right. Both Patrick Johnson of the province, he suggested $8 million. So we would think that's a 7 or 8 year contract. And then Elliot Friedman coming on Downey and Dolly saying basically a similar thing, that Hughes is looking at term. And wasn't it funny yesterday how, I guess, coming out of Labor Day and back to school, back to work, everything kind of blew up, right? Donnie and Dolly are back. Sakaris and Price are back. Halford and Bruff are back. Athletics starting to post again. It was kind of nice as a Canucks fan. At least we had some stuff to go to read.
It is sports season, and I guess this kind of means we're starting season 2 a week late. We should have tried to get in with all the cool kids in the media, but we're making our own path here.
Are you fine with 8x8? I'll just ask you. Let's get it going. Are you fine with 8x8 for Hughes?
Yeah. Why not? I mean, it's one of those things where it's if he plays like he did last year for all those 8 years, that's not an ideal contract, right? But also, it's like, you know what you're getting. It's locked in, and I think he can be good enough where that contract will have value. It's risky, but it's risky in a different way, right? It's risky in a certainty way. You're paying this much money. The only risk is, does Hughes live up to it? In the other case, you give him a 3-year contract, and now the risk is, there's less risk because 3 years from now we can start over here. But also there's risk that 3 years from now he's doing a lot better, and and we're talking about an 8-figure price tag instead of a 7-figure one. And then so it's you're getting risk regardless, right? And it's whether or not you want to make the bet that he's going to be really good, or you want to make the bet that he's going to be just average. And if you're going to go bridge, that might be, that second idea might be a better bet. But if you do want to have a franchise defenseman, you think Quinn Hughes is going to be your franchise number 1 defenseman who might be Norris caliber at some point in his career, then 8 years at $8 million is the only way you're going to get, or, $8 million. But the full length you can get buying those UFA years now is the only way you're going to get that value over the course of the term. Great point.
And it's funny, Parker, the reaction to Petey when we spitball numbers for him, everyone usually, I hear very few people say, oh, that's an overpayment. We're going to have to pay more for him, meaning they say that my guesses are conservative. But when it comes to Hughes, for every person that says, oh, that would be a great contract, kind of like what you said, there's going to be another person that says, I'm not sure if I'm sold on this guy yet.
Well, yeah, you got to look at comparables, right? I mean, there's not a lot of defensemen in the NHL making more than $8 million, right? There's a handful of them. But when you're talking about, number 1 centers, they get paid pretty well. And you look, analytically, guys like Dom Lucian put out their models when a contract gets signed. And you can look at a contract like Connor McDavid's, for example, which is the highest paid contract in the NHL, $12.5 million per year. And he puts out this basically, analysis of his analytics. And it says, if Connor McDavid was making the league maximum, the Oilers would still be getting way more value than they're paying for.
Wow.
Right? So you look at a guy like Elias Pettersson, and you look at, if you have a true franchise caliber number 1 center, like a top 20 player in the NHL, then it's hard to overpay them, right? It's hard to overpay your stars. It's easy to overpay the guys down the lineup, right? But it's, you have a bunch of guys making $3 million a year on your 3rd and 4th line. That adds up really quickly. But if you're overpaying your stars by $1 million or $2 million, it's not ideal, but it's a lot less hurtful than paying the guys way down the lineup too much money.
Great. Yeah. Well said. And I guess the easiest way to, to articulate that would be, we'd much rather be paying Petey, overpaying him $1 or $2 million than Louis Eriksson by basically 5.5 million.
6.
Yeah, exactly.
All
I
of
would
it.
give him a little bit of credit. I didn't even give him leave minimum.
He didn't give the team any credit last week in that interview. So.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Can't let him live that down. But yeah,
Okay,
so if we're talking, Quinn
Yeah.
Hughes, let's go on a limb and say 8x8, right? Which is a lot, and it means they're paying more now, right? You have to purchase those UFA years, right? Because the RFA years are always cheaper. He's under the team's control, but once 3 years from now, he's an unrestricted free agent, and instead of one team bidding for his services, it's 32. Supply and demand market drives that price up. So while you might be able to pay him, in the $6 million range for, like 3 years, when you start looking at, 8 years, you have to start bringing up that price because 6 years from now, he's going to be wanting to make more money over the course of that term. So in the short term, it's probably a net negative, right? I don't think like Quinn Hughes probably won't be an $8 million player this year. Right. That might be fair, but
fair.
3 years, years 3 to 8, he might be a $9-10 million player. So that's where you sort of, you pay your dues a little bit now for that value in the long term, which, I like that philosophy, but for this team trying to put together a competing roster this year, it might be a little bit hurtful in that regard.
Yeah, people. I really like how you explained that, Parker. People said that about Demko when he signed his 5x5. We think at the overall 25 million, that's pretty good for potentially a Vezina, battling goalie. But I think we made this point that first year, that second year, it might feel like a bit of an overpayment. By year 3, 4, 5, we should be getting a deal on that deal.
Right. Yeah. You're making a gamble and you're betting. It's a fun bet. You're betting that your player is going to be good. Right. And that's something everyone can get behind. When you go more the bridge route, you're betting that they won't be as good as you might hope they will be, because then you'll save money in the long run.
Yes, exactly. Yes. Well said. And so if we say, you remember we've talked about with Cap Friendly, they have a couple guys on the roster listed against the cap that actually aren't going to start the team. So we agree that there's about 16 million when you include Michael Furlan's LTIR for his unfortunate concussion and his injury. So if that 8 million's gone, what would you say for PD? And it's interesting, John, and I've heard others talk about it might not even be a 3-year deal. There's a possibility it could be a 1 or 2 year, and it still doesn't take him to UFA, but it makes it a little risky because then you got to do this all again next year.
Yeah, it is an interesting. That's a weird dynamic. You look at the standard bridge is 1 year before RFA. So in this case, 3 years. But that also can be a little dangerous, right? Because you can do that 3-year contract. At the end of it, the player might be like, I don't want to be here anymore. I will only sign a 1-year deal to walk me to UFA, which you still have a bit of leverage. You can try to trade them at the deadline and things like that. But, something like a 1-year deal now, I don't get it, right? Like how does it benefit anybody for us to just do this all again next year, especially if Pettersson has an excellent year, which we hope for, but then that's now negative for the team in the long run.
Yes. And then we're trying to sign Bo next summer too. Or no, sorry, it's Brock next summer.
Right.
Yeah. And then Bo after that, then Miller after that. Yeah. So we're going to get used to these summers of potentially drawn out negotiations. So, okay. So let's agree that even though it's a possibility, we don't think 1 year is likely. If we talk about 3 years, Parker, you give him all the rest of the money, the 8 million, or are we talking about a Barzell like 7 million or something in between?
Well, so if we're talking for this year, the Canucks don't need to sign anyone else, really, right? Like it's just him. The Canucks went out and they signed a team and a half full of players at the start of free agency. So they have enough people on the roster. It's kind of finalized who's going to be there. You do like to have a bit of cap flexibility throughout the season, right? Let's say this team is putting on a run, right? Let's say this team is on pace for 50 wins this season. I'm not gambling on that, but let's say, we get to the trade deadline. This team's looking like a 105-point team, and they say, all right, we want to go add another piece. And if your cap is accumulating throughout the season, right? Let's say you have $2 million in cap space at the start of the season. Well, by the time you get to the trade deadline, you might be able to bring in a player who makes $6 million because the cap is a daily number. So if you want to, have some cap flexibility. That is, obviously ideal. But it doesn't look like this team's going to have cap flexibility, right? So if we're talking about giving him 7 million or giving him 7.8 million or whatever it is, I don't think it's enough to really matter. But I would be fine with giving him whatever it takes to have him on the team, basically.
Yeah. Do you think PD? So I've seen some people say 3 times 9, which would be very tricky.
Really high.
Yeah.
That's too high.
You think
that won't happen?
Yeah. I think my guess is 7.5 to 8. Does that sound right?
I see 8 as around the ceiling if it's a bridge. Okay. Like if we're talking long term, then I could see 9 in the picture.
Yeah.
But for an RFA that the only threat is an offer sheet, but at this point, I mean, it just doesn't seem very likely an offer sheet would come through. If it would have previously. There's no real threat. So there's no need to sign him for that much money, right? I think we've sort of got a standard for bridge contracts around that 7 for an elite center, like you said, Barzal, around that 7, maybe $7.5 million, especially since the cap hasn't gone up since then.
Right. Can you imagine? I was just looking up, Parker. Can you imagine if it got so tight to the cap that, and even with Furlan's LTIR and everything, that I'm just looking at the defense, and you probably know where I'm going, where Rathbone makes $925, but Yolevi makes $750. Can you imagine if that $175,000 is a difference maker? That'd be so crazy.
So they have to send Rathbone down because they need that extra cap space. Yeah, I mean, it's possible. It seems like, if you have to decide which players you put on the ice on a given night based on $100,000 of salary, that is tough. And especially coming from a team that says, no, we don't have any cap troubles in the past, and a team that just cleared out $12 million of bad cap. That's a bit of a scary idea.
Yes, I agree. If only Luongo's cap recapture penalty still wasn't on our books, eh?
Yep. Well, that contract was signed about 12 years ago now. I saw when I was looking for topics, I saw a post, and it was from a couple days ago. It was 12 years to the day that contract got signed.
Wow.
And it's still with us. One more year. Almost done.
One more year. Okay, so we are both collectively saying 8 and 8. There's our 16. No flexibility, but we'll figure it out.
Yeah. They don't really have much of a choice, right? Yep. They're not going to not have these guys signed going into camp, but it's going to be interesting, and I'm looking forward to the day it comes through, because it's going to be I say it's going to be one less thing for us to talk about, but when each of these contracts happen, our Canucks After Dark episodes are going to be entirely about those contracts, most likely. So stay tuned, folks. Yes. Might be a lot to talk about next Monday or the Monday after.
Very cool.
All right, let's move on to another young member of the Vancouver Canucks, just joining the team all the way from Mother Russia. Vasili Podkolzin has arrived in Vancouver wearing number 92 in a Canucks practice jersey, just ripping pucks past Martin Jones. He is officially here. He got his visas sorted out, his vaccinations sorted out, and he is officially in Vancouver.
Happened pretty quickly, huh, Parker? Like we talked all summer. We knew about this visa. People were reporting on it. And then I think he, out of the blue, he kind of posts an Instagram story with him we presume at the airport with his new wife. Got married 2 months ago. And next thing we know, he's posting pictures on a balcony in downtown.
Yeah, I think Rick Dollywall was like, this was a few days ago. He was like, he finally has all his paperwork. He'll be on his way to Vancouver in a couple days. And like the next day, he's just on a balcony in Vancouver. He's like, I'm here. So, it's, another new member of the team, another hopefully good offensive piece in the team. We've talked about sort of our expectations for Vasili Podkolzin this year. Pretty conservative, I would say. We don't want to have our hopes too high. We don't want to, put this entire season on a young rookie playing in his first NHL games, especially a guy who played like 8 minutes a night in Russia. But it is going to be he's going to be an exciting piece to watch.
Yeah. And you and I have both talked about and agreed upon, for the most part, a fact that a second line could be Horvat with Garland and Hoglander. But I've heard some people, and even someone in the chat earlier, say, are we concerned that Hoglander and Garland together are too small? Sure, they play well, they play feisty, but physically, would that give you pause and say maybe we should put one of Podkolzin or Pearson up on that second line because they are bigger players? What says you?
If you're playing in the offensive zone, it doesn't matter. In my opinion,
Yeah.
if this is a line that you think is going to play well enough that they're going to have offensive opportunity, which I think they will, I don't see it as much of a concern. Size on the wings it's not that important, right? Like, we hear all this talk about like, oh, these small guys, they can't work in the corners or whatever. But if you have the puck, you don't only have to work in the corners. We see guys like Cole Caulfield lighting it up. Johnny Gaudreau back in the day was, never going to be big enough to make it. I think Höglander plays a lot bigger than his size to me, though, right? Like, I don't know what his actual numbers are, if he's like 5'10", but he plays like he's much bigger than he is. He works way harder than anyone else on the ice. I don't have any concern with having Nils Höglander and Connor Garland on a line together.
I would agree with you, especially the way, like you said, Höglander plays bigger than he is. Garland is such a little water bug, but not like a little wimp. He's not afraid to go to the net. He's not afraid to go to the dirty area. So I agree with you in that. However, anytime someone says, well, why not Podkolzin instead of Höglander? I kind of think of Höglander did the same thing last year, was kind of revelation out of training camp. Yet Höglander has a year on Podkolzin when it comes to experience now. And if Travis Green very values experience, even though he gave Höglander a chance. So it's so tricky. And I'm quite intrigued as to what happens. Because sometimes, as you know, and we talked about, Travis Green almost sets certain pairings or line combinations and stubbornly sticks with them like throughout training camp.
Yeah. And yeah, on part of that, why not Podkolzin over Höglander? We know what Höglander is kind of already, right? Like last year, he had just turned 20. He goes out and he gets 27 points in 56 games, right? A 40+ point pace. That's really good for a second line. So if he builds off this, we have no reason to believe he won't. Then yeah, he's a second line player in the NHL. So you might say, oh, well, why not just put Podkolzin up there? Because we don't know what he is, right? We've seen him play, in big games and perform admirably. But we've also seen him, have to ride the bench in the KHL playing, getting 3 shifts in a game. I think, getting your hopes up on Podkolzin, just slotting into the second line and putting up 40, 50 points year one. It's a risky maneuver. Meanwhile, you have guys like Connor Garland, who there's no doubt in my mind he's second line, if not first. And Nils Höglander, who also would be an excellent third liner, but I think he slots in really well on that second line to give it more offensive upside over a guy like Podkolzin, who's an unknown quantity, or Tanner Pearson.
Okay, I'm going to play a quick game with you. I think you'll get it right, considering it's the 4 guys we talked about. So Garland, Höglander, Pearson, and Podkolzin, okay? Those 4. I'm going to give you just very quickly their sizes, and you just kind of guess which guy this is, okay? 5'10", 165.
That's Garland, I would say.
Very good. 1 for 1. Almost done. 6'1", 200.
Who are my options again? Horvat and Pearson are the other 2?
No, the other 2 are now Pearson, Podkolzin, Höglander.
I would say that's Podkolzin.
Close. This one's Pearson.
Oh.
6'1", 200.
He doesn't seem that big.
I've seen. Yeah, he looks pretty wide. We're about the same weight, but he's got a few inches taller than me. And then Podkolzin is very close, 6'1" as well, 190, and that would leave Höglander at 5'9", 185, as listed on the Canucks website. Yeah.
185 is pretty big for 5'9". That's some good mass. I guess that is why he battles so well.
That's true. Okay, so I like what you're saying. I never thought about that, but I think about a roller hockey team. Yeah, you don't need to be big and tough if you're the one being chased all the time, right?
Yeah,
with the puck.
Exactly.
Yeah,
you just gotta stay away from him. All right, our next topic, our last Canucks topic, and it's a very quick one. The Canucks are searching for a DJ. How exciting's that?
It's funny, as you know, Parker, I love music, and I love music and hockey, obviously. And when I'm at the game, when you're at the game, I don't think anyone's going for the music, but it's part of the atmosphere that we're trying to create, along with an in-game arena host, along with contests, visuals, music. So, but the one that they had, this DJ Barron, she kind of got a bit of a bad rap, didn't she?
She wasn't the most loved. It was it wasn't a vibe that a lot of people liked. You know, the Chelsea dagger playing. There was like a pride night that she played Dude Looks Like a Lady by Aerosmith, like some real tone deaf decisions. It wasn't ideal. So she is out, and obviously lots of people are hoping for someone like Jay Swing to come back, who was sort of in the prime time era. But yeah, I think, you know, the Canucks in arena experience has been better. It's and a lot of it does come down to the team on the ice, though, right? It's
Totally.
But you know, if you're icing a bad team, you have to make up for it in other ways, and that's a big part of it. Whether it's bringing in Crazy P, please don't do that again. That was frightening. Every time you're sitting there, and my seats were right next to the tunnel, like the entrance for our section. So no warning, just the drum right next to the ear.
Him screaming at you. Yes.
Literally like interrogating us at the. so there's levels to it. You want everyone to feel involved and build up the energy level in fun ways, and music is a big part of that.
I love what you said though about, because it's so true. If the team is playing well and the in-game presentation sucks, no one cares because the team is playing well. But on the flip side, if the team is not playing well and the in-game presentation sucks, that's horrible. And even if the team's not well and the presentation is good, people are still going to think it sucks because they're in a bad mood because the team's losing. So I agree with you on that. So obviously the perfect world would be the Canucks do well, and then it makes everything sound and feel better. Exactly. So do you know how to scratch anything, or do you know how to spin any wheels?
Not
or are you
very
going to be
well.
You look like a DJ with your headphones and everything.
Yeah, I will not be the next Canucks DJ. I can promise you that. I think that's all we need to talk about on that one. This is a great comment. Bring back Michael Del Zotto to be the DJ. I love it.
So was he basically the DJ in the dressing room? Or is he an actual DJ?
And he also DJs on the side, DJ MDZ. But yeah, no, he's into it. I think that's all we need to talk about on that.
Sure.
And we're right at about 10:26, and we wanted to don't do that at 10:30. So now's a good time for you to submit those.
Right.
And what we'll do in the meantime is we'll talk about season 2. So this is the end of season 1. It's a Wednesday. As you know, we did our Wednesday shows basically for all of July and August and early September now, just because it kind of worked with our schedules better. You know, there's no games to deal with. Lots of the big events happening in like free agency, expansion draft were all on Wednesdays anyways. So it worked out pretty well. But for season 2, we are going back to Mondays at 10 p.m. and it all starts next Monday. So you kind of get an extra show. You know, it's Wednesday where it's only 5 days away. Hopefully something happens in those 5 days for us to talk about. But Monday at 10 p.m. we'll kick off season 2. And it's going to be a ton of fun. There's not going to be a lot different, but we'll have ideally some Canucks hockey to talk about throughout the season, which will be a lot of fun. But we do have some plans for this episode coming up, and it is definitely a reason to tune in. Our plans are a big sort of contest. We are going to I have a big form ready to go where you can submit predictions for the Canucks this season, including like how many wins they'll have, how many points by certain players, goaltender save percentage, like a bunch of fun stats that you can predict. And whoever gets the most points, the most things correct in the scoring system that's on it, will win some sort of prize at the end of the year. It'll just be some sort of fun thing to track. The most fun part about it is Clay and I are going to go head to head on this. So we are both on the show next week. We are going to make our predictions for all of these categories. We're going to lock them in live on the show. So there's no way for us to be like, actually, I said Horvat was going to get 18 goals instead of 22 or whatever happens. Right. So we'll be doing that live on the show. And we're going to be doing sort of just a contest throughout the year, something for us to keep tabs on when maybe, storylines are a little bit slow. We can check in on sort of our side bet here, which will be a lot of fun.
I really like that. So a couple of thoughts on this. Number one, I got to do some research then, right? But you got to send me the questions, obviously.
Here's the thing. I made the questions about a month and a half ago. I don't remember. Okay. So I'm almost thinking fair. I just pull them up and we both just pick our answers with no prep.
That's good. Then we're not taking like rolling averages. Okay. I'm with you. I'm with you. Number two, This has been fun. I can't believe it's been 23, maybe 21 weeks because we had a couple of weeks where we had double. But yeah, and to do this all, and we've grown quite well, on the podcast side for sure. On the YouTube side, we're halfway to 1,000 in just 4 months, which is pretty cool. But this is all done talking about maybe 12 games max, as we talked about at the very start. So pretty exciting stuff. I can't wait. I think there's gonna be a lot of energy around the team. I know you and I are excited about what we're doing here together. You and I are excited about other stuff that we're doing. So I'm excited. I think it's gonna be wonderful.
Absolutely. It is going to be a really fun season, especially if the team's good. If the team is performing and the team's in the playoff hunt, it is going to be a super fun season. And if you're not subscribed already to the Canucks After Dark YouTube channel, make sure you do that. Or you can subscribe to us on your favorite podcast platform as well.
I love Lucas's thing saying not getting hype for season 2. Don't do that. Lucas is the quintessential hype man. So thank you, Lucas, for the hype all the time. Yes.
Yeah, we need to, it's going to be a ton of fun. Every Monday night, 10 p.m., just like we are used to. Fangirl says, not giving a 5-star review on Canucks After Dark. Don't do that. I haven't called this out in a while. But we haven't really gotten any Apple Podcast reviews lately, but I know our podcast listenership has increased a lot. So if you're listening, especially on the podcast side or here live on YouTube, and especially if you're on Apple Podcasts, you can leave a review of the show, and we'd really appreciate it. It helps us grow. And whatever you write in there, we'll read it out on the next week's show. So if you go in there and you say, this is the best show ever, 5 stars, we'll read it. If you insult us, but you still give it 5 stars, then we'll still read it.
That was trickier, but we'll do it. Yeah,
we'll still do it. It'll be entertaining at least.
Let's go
give us a 5-star review.
Yes, please do. Thank you for that suggestion, Fangirl. Tiger says giving Louis Eriksson a tribute video. Don't do that. That's a good point, actually. When Louis, Beagle, Rousseau, even Schmidt, Holtby, what are they doing? Just an acknowledgement.
That's interesting. They played with the team for a while. Like 5 years for Louis that's a long time to not get a video. But it's also like
what would you put in the highlight video? Him scoring on himself?
It can't win for the PR team, right? Yeah, you could put that highlight in, and that's it. That's the whole video of him scoring on himself. Or I remember I feel like, was this last year where the Canucks put a mini montage of Louis Eriksson up on Twitter, but it was all just him like skating for the puck the whole time. Like there was and it was like genuine, but there was no actual highlights on it, like something like that. And then Beagle and Roussel, I think you just, put up on the screen, maybe show one of their goals or something. Like Roussel's goal during the Alex Burrows game, for example, like something like that.
That's a good one.
And then, put something like that up. And then that's
Jay Beagle blocking a shot on a power play or a penalty kill. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. We'll see what happens. That's a good one though.
Andrew says this isn't a don't do that, but this is a good point. Watching Monday Night Football and then Canucks After Dark sounds like a great way to start each week. I absolutely agree, Andrew. I will be partaking in the same thing, except
you're a big NFL guy, right, Parker?
Yeah.
I pretend just for my fantasy. People are just stealing money from me anyways.
Yeah. No, I feel that.
Yeah.
Any more don't do that? I don't think so. Oh, this is funny. Wearing jeans at a wedding. Don't do that. This is the biggest Canucks news of the week. We have to get our takes in on the jeans to a wedding by Don Taylor. What do you say here?
20-second background. It was Brian Henderson, his producer, that got married, correct?
I believe so. Yep.
Took a picture, a bunch of Team 1040 alum, and most of them were dressed up, and Don Taylor was wearing a windbreaker, jeans, and dress shoes.
Hey, he had the shoes right.
He got the shoes right. I heard him say on the show that the invitation said semi-formal, which would usually mean
that counts jeans out.
Yeah.
That absolutely counts jeans out.
No, I don't think, if there's one guy, not who could pull it off, because we're not talking about how good he looked. If there's one guy who can at least have fun with it and roll with the punches, it is him. But I don't, as much as I like Don Taylor, I don't think it was the best look.
No, it's Don Taylor. He can do whatever he wants. But yeah, no jeans to the wedding. All right. Where do we want to go now? Do we want to? Lots of you guys are giving us like general topics. Save those for the last 15 minutes or so of the show. We got a couple other NHL topics to hit on, and this is something we talked about last week. Did you have something you want to jump in with?
No, I think you're going where I'm going. Yep.
All right. Jesperi Kotkaniemi, offer sheet was successful. I should have left this so you had to say his name.
No way, man.
He particularly asked me before the show. He's like, you have to lead off this topic. So the Carolina Hurricanes put in that offer sheet, that, kind of salty offer sheet they put in with the $20 signing bonus and the 15 and all the numbers and changing their Twitter bio to French, and their Twitter bio is now like undisputed offer sheet champions or something like that.
So bad.
It's
so good.
It's great. It's great entertainment, at least, but the Canadiens choose not to match. So they would have had to pay, for the recap, they would have had to pay Kotkaniemi about $6.1 million for just this year, and then that would be his qualifying offer for his next contract as well. Instead, they elect to receive the first and third round picks in compensation.
Yeah, what a story. Wasn't he the third overall pick in, was it Quinn Hughes' year, right?
I think 2018.
Yeah. So third overall, are they giving up on? Well, I guess they kind of did, because but he's only 21 years old. Yet, if you don't think he's gonna be 6.1 is basically a second line, right? That's Horvat money. That's
a high end second line, I would say. Yeah.
So if you don't think he's gonna turn out to be that, then it's a tough decision. But I don't blame them, and I think you and I agree that this was our prediction last week, that they weren't going to match.
I don't know if it was my prediction, but it was what I thought they should do.
Right. That's
so
right.
For some backstory, he's played 3 years in the NHL now, right? He got drafted in 2018. He played 79 games after he got drafted, got 34 points in the 79 games, 11 goals. So he looked like, all right, if he keeps improving over time, that's going to be a really good contract, or a really good pick. But then the next year, he only had 8 points in 36 games, and ended up, doing a stint in the AHL for a handful of games. And then this last season, in the 56 game shortened season, he only had 5 goals, 15 assists for 20 points. So basically a 30-point pace or so. Now look, he's still only 21, but to go from basically a 35-point player to a 20-point player, then back to a 30-point player, doesn't put a lot of confidence from that team into Kotkaniemi. So the thought is probably, well, maybe we could sign him for $6.1 million, but then we might have to trade him next year or trade his rights, because he's not worth that money as a qualifying offer. And then they're not going to get a first and a third in return for a guy who looks like he might cap out as sort of a mid-tier second line center at best.
You ended up, if you decide to trade him because you're not doing well or whatever, you're right. You're not getting close to 2 draft picks, a first and a third. You might get a second or
right.
Yeah.
So
you're right on, Parker. And it's just funny. Like, if you can separate the fact that he's third overall, which there's a lot of good players that were third overall, and he's only 21. But if Bergevin did at least his clear thinking was that this guy's not worth 6.1, and you're right, not just this season, but at least that going forward. Maybe it wasn't a tough decision. They could say it was a tough decision, then they took it down the wire, which is smart, right? You don't
you might as well.
Use all the time that you're given. But my gut feeling is it wasn't much of a debate. That's just my gut feeling. That's not based on anything, just maybe my own thoughts.
Yeah, no, I think it was the right choice. I think it's a bit of a tough choice, again, because you drafted the guy third overall, but the position you drafted a guy at doesn't matter anymore, right? Once you're a couple years in, right?
Yeah.
We can talk all we want about Olli Juolevi being a 5th overall pick, but that shouldn't impact anything at this point, right? That was years ago, and it's the same with the Kotkaniemi side of things.
But then they did something to at least make up for it, kind of.
They did. So then they went out and acquired Christian Dvorak, a young, I think he's 25-year-old center. I thought he was way older for some reason, but he's 25-year-old center, and they trade a first-round pick and a second-round pick. Now, it's a conditional first, so the condition is it's the better of Carolina or Montreal's first-round pick. So they got that first-round pick in the Kotkaniemi trade from Carolina. Arizona will get the better of the 2 firsts next year, and then a 2024 second round pick. So way down the line, second round pick in exchange for Christian Dvorak.
You know, the first time I heard about Christian Dvorak, it was so crazy. It was in my fantasy draft, which is a keeper league. So it rolls over year over year and you keep your guys. And he got drafted, I'm just looking, 58th overall in 2014. 2014, isn't that the McDavid draft?
No, that's the Ekblad draft.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
So that's
who
also
went second?
Sam Reinhart went second.
Okay. All I remember is this guy in my pool was so adamant. He wanted Christian Dvorak so bad. He actually made a trade with another guy for a player like Ovi or so. It was someone so crazy. It was someone so crazy that we thought that he was joking.
That's a heck of a move.
And then we were laughing and and then he was serious and then we felt really bad. So anyways, Christian, obviously there's some skill there. He's still around the league. Does he do enough? What does he play even?
He's a center. He's a center, and he's a pretty good center. So entered the league in 2016. So a couple years after he was drafted, put up 33 points in 78 games. The following year, 37 points in 78 games. 2019, 2020, 38 points in 70 games. Mm-hmm. And then this last year, he had his best year yet. So in the 56 games, he had 17 goals, 14 assists for 31 points. So about a 45-point pace or so there, which is, a decent second line center who is still young. And
I just looked up his contract, 4.45.
Yeah, so a cost-controlled contract until 2025. That's pretty good for if he's going to be your second-line center at 4.45, $1.5 million less than Kotkaniemi. Yes. I think that's a pretty good swap if you're Montreal.
Yeah, especially, if you think, and he's proven he's at better numbers than the guy, KK. People are wondering why I won't say his name. I can't say it right. I haven't said it right for 3 years, so why would I start now? So cheaper, more productive, and it kind of eases satisfies, not the right word, but it's at least something, right? You're showing the Montreal fans that we're not just giving up on this team for this year and taking those 2 draft picks for KK. We have this guy instead. So I'm okay with it.
I agree. All right. Our last topic we want to hit on. So now is probably the time for you to start throwing some topics in the chat. We talked about this quite a bit last week, but it was official as of Friday that the NHL is going to the Olympics. Now, there are a lot of caveats, including that the NHL can pull the plug at any time if COVID-19 is getting out of hand. But it is really looking like they want to do it. The IIHF is covering insurance, but they will not cover COVID-related insurance. So the players are just willing to go for it at that point is sort of what they said. The players were willing to concede that. And we're going to have best on best Olympic hockey in about 5 months' time.
Wow. I know you like it. I know I like it. I know we're hungry for it. They skipped the 2018 Olympics, so it'll be 8 years in the making. You don't count that World Hockey Championship or World Cup that they did 2016. This is exciting. And I'm excited because we missed one, and I'm excited because there could be up to 9 or 10 Canucks playing in these Olympics, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, absolutely. It is going to be a lot of fun. We won't go into the whole, who's going to make the team, all this stuff. We did that last week. If you are interested, you can go back, watch last week's episode, or you can listen to the podcast. Always a good option for you guys. Anything else you want to talk about the Olympics, or just we're excited?
Very excited.
Sweet. I like it. All right. And now we turn it to you, the viewers at home. This is your chance to submit a topic for the show. We've got about 15 minutes left. We'll answer a few questions, talk on a few topics, stuff that we might have missed over the course of the week. Clay, you're gonna be up first on picking a topic.
Okay. Well, since it's the only one I see right now, Anna Crawford. So are we starting with or without fans? I heard when they were talking about the vaccine passport rollout on Tuesday, Parker, correct me if I'm wrong, wasn't the comment like by the end of the fall? So kind of November, December, they're hoping for full?
Yeah, so I thought it was like something like 50% until then,
Okay, that
or
would make
something of
sense.
that nature. So I'm sure there will be fans in the arena opening night, at least, whether they do something like 5,000 or 9,000 to fill it half. There will be people in the arena, and then I would think that goes up to a full-on stadium, hopefully by like November, December, something like that.
So Parker, I'm not going to make you say anything political unless you do. That's your own fault. But I know you go to 8 or 10 games a year. I get to about the same a year. Your comfort level in both 50% capacity, full capacity, overall?
I'm fine.
Yeah,
Especially with the vaccine requirement. I'm at the point where you got to get back to normal at some point. And if everyone who's going to get vaccinated is vaccinated, at some point you just got to say, all right, that's it's the best we're going to do. So if I'm willing to go. If I get tickets, I don't know what my plan is around that yet. Especially with my plans for content for the season, might be a little tricky to go to some games, but I'm sure I'll figure something out.
Yeah, step 4 was supposed to be yesterday, but because of the Delta variant, they're going to push it at least till end of October. I heard is the next target date.
Sounds right to me.
Sounds good. All right, your turn.
Oh no. Oh, this is a good one. Thank you for putting this in, Sammy, right when I had to make a pick. It's the first one I saw. Are the Olympics being played on the European or North American ice surface? It's going to be North American, actually. This was in the memo that I think it wasn't Alan Walsh. Don Fair?
Don Fair.
Yeah. Don Fair's memo out to the players said it would be on an NHL-sized arena. So I'm kind of sad about that. I like the big ice. It's it's fun. It's a lot more open, but it's going to be a bit more of the game we know.
Isn't it funny when you watch like the Olympics or the Spengler Cup or the World Juniors? That ice, I don't know the exact how much bigger it is. It looks massive. Maybe it's the camera angle. It looks like you fit almost another 2 guys per team on there.
Yeah, I don't think it's a big difference. I actually think I have it pulled up here. It's 15 feet wider. So NHL rink is 85 feet wide. Olympic is 100. So 7.5 feet per side is a lot of room.
Yeah.
And then I think I don't know if length is different. Length is slightly. The NHL rink is 2 feet longer. No, it's not, because the Olympic rink has 2 more feet behind the net. So the zone size are a little bit different. Smaller offensive zone, bigger neutral zone on the Olympic rink, and the NHL rink is just 15 feet thinner.
Okay. Do you think teams like? Do you think it makes a difference to any of these teams? Basically, does it going to help anyone that it's on the North American, Canada, US, or it doesn't matter because all these guys are playing in the NHL?
I don't think it gives anyone an edge. I think it might. I think Olympic ice is probably better for better teams. Right, the more space a team like Canada has against like a Slovakia, right? Nothing against Slovakia, but they're a tier or 2 down. Giving Connor McDavid an extra 15 feet of lateral space to move can't help. Cannot help the enemy in that case.
That's true. A defensive minded team is probably applauding, be happy about this decision for sure.
Yeah, if you put me out there against any NHL player and the ice was this wide, I might have a shot. But if the ice is 100 feet wide, I'm going to get walked and it won't be close. So I think the smaller ice definitely benefits worse teams, but it won't be enough to really matter.
Yeah, very well said. Can you go up to Edmonds? You guys think Jake Virtanen will struggle in the KHL? I'm actually glad Edmund asked this because you and I talked about this as a potential show topic, but we can do it really quickly now. On the same weekend that we hear that Podkolzin's coming from Russia to Vancouver, we hear stories. Actually, we heard Virtanen linked to 3 different KHL teams. I stupidly made a video with the wrong team, but that's okay. Whatever. It sounds like he's going for a 1-year contract to play with Spartak, right? I think is the one he finally settled
You
on?
know better than I do. I didn't look.
Okay. So anyways, we Jake Virtanen bought out by the Canucks this season, admits the allegations of sexual misconduct, off to play in Russia. And the question Edmund says is, do you guys think Jake Virtanen will struggle in the KHL? I don't think he's going to struggle. I think he's going to go with a bit of a chip on his shoulder. I think is he going to be a marked man? Maybe they don't care, maybe whatever. I don't think he's going to struggle, but I don't think he's going to light it up either. I think he'll just be a contributor. What do you think, Parker?
Do you really think he's going to try that hard? Like, he didn't try here, right? He's
So
going
why
to
would
try
he-
over
yeah.
there. I don't know. I think he'll do fine. I think he has an edge playing against worse players.
Right.
But like, he didn't try here, he's not going to try there.
That's
so
a good point.
I think he'll do okay.
Yeah, you're right. You actually take the fact that his try meter might not be that strong, yet the level of competition is obviously weaker because it's the K, not the NHL. So maybe you put those things together and he'll be do the same as here. He'll just be okay.
Yeah.
Nondescript.
Nondescript.
Yeah.
I think is fair.
Yeah.
Let's see here. I don't know. There's so many questions and they're so hard to pick from. Lots of also just like general comments, which makes it kind of tough to filter through.
Which is great. We love the chat.
Absolutely.
Definitely we love you guys chatting with each other. Just it just makes it, we just got to filter through really quickly. How about Noah's? A nice, not an easy one, but is very relevant to what we talked about.
I missed it.
Yeah.
It moved.
Go for it.
Do you think Quinn Hughes will have a better season this year? I think he has to. Does he he has it in him, right? I mean, we saw it in the year before that he has better play in him. It's just whether or not it happens. So yeah, I'd say so. I think he will, if he doesn't get all the way back to his, the first Quinn Hughes we saw. But I think it'll be tough for him to do much worse because he is so skilled and such a good skater that I think that'll shine through. And, this season was a mess, right? And I think if next season is less of a mess, then that is good for Quinn Hughes.
Do you put him with Hamonic again, Parker?
I think so. I think you at least start it that way. Although, we did see it was like a fine pairing, but Hughes did struggle, right? Even with Travis Hamonic, although they weren't, a disaster on the ice together. I think you try every combination you can, especially with, a bunch of new bodies coming in, bunch of guys going out. You might as well just try everything. And, if it doesn't work, you switch it around. We know Travis Green loves to do that. So I think that probably is where it ends up though.
But you're right. Hughes and Hamonic, of all the 6 or 7 guys that are going to be battling for those spots, that's the one constant that at least had some success last season. So I agree with you. I see Travis Green coming out of the chute with that pairing at least, and then figuring out if it's Pullman or Myers playing with Ekman Larson, right? Then that's the other, because that you make that decision, then obviously it makes your third pair decision for you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yep. What else?
This is just kind of fun and off the board. Thoughts on Grayovac? Did we mention when Grayovac left?
You did.
Where did he go? He went to
somewhere,
a Swiss league or something weird. Oh no, he went to Russia. He went to Dynamo Minsk. I was surprised, honestly. I thought Tyler Grayovac was out of all the fourth liners, I thought he had a really good shot of potentially making the team next year. We saw splashes of him, especially after the COVID break, and he was one of the better players on the ice. Honestly, he's 28. He's definitely at the end of his career. Especially if you're a fourth liner. Once you're 28, you're not going to really get a lot better. But I was kind of surprised that he didn't stick.
Yeah, decent size. I think he scored 1 or 2 goals right at the end, and I remember the night he scored his first one. He was one of the players trotted out on Zoom to have the post game, and he was very likable. He's very articulate. Mm-hmm. Maybe it's because of the age that you referred to, Parker, just simply more mature, more life experience. The kind of guy you want to root for, but obviously not in the team's plans, which is a little too bad.
Mm-hmm. All right, you're up.
All right. Oh, actually, I like BL Tubes, not just because it's the last one. Although that's kind of like my trend right now.
The first one.
How much? Yeah. How much non-Canucks hockey do you watch? I will say, admittedly, not a lot. When it's during the regular season, if there's a game on before the Canucks game on a doubleheader on Sportsnet or CBC, I might catch the third period. But unlike Parker, and obviously you can speak for yourself, I actually don't branch out to non-Canuck stuff, even on this channel. For me, on my channel, when I do that, I find the engagement simply not as strong. Maybe people are onto me. They know I don't know much about the rest of the league. So
yeah, I was faking it. I'll tell you that.
But when it comes to hockey, do you watch a lot of non-Canucks hockey though, Parker?
No, I keep up to date, like Twitter and Reddit. Like I sort of just like I'm on the Twitter hockey subreddit like all the time. So I know what's going on. But when it comes down to watching games, I'm kind of in the same boat, right? If the Canucks are playing at 7 and it's hockey night in Canada and there's a game on at 4, yeah, I'll have the game on while I'm doing other stuff probably, right? And I'll sometimes just have games on. If there's some reason to watch the game, like, something, like remember when the Flames and Oilers had that sort of beef where they were fighting every night?
Cassian and
Chuck, right? Something like that, I'll tune in. But other than that, until it's the playoffs, until there's really something on the line, if it's like a make or break game, or it's a playoff game, then I probably won't tune in.
That's a great point though about the kind of the marquee or the intriguing ones. Calgary, Edmonton, Tiger just said any team that Tom Wilson is playing on versus the Rangers. Like, yeah, and that would kind of make sense, right? Kind of like if you're if you're a fan of the NBA or NBA, you always get excited for certain matchups or when certain players play. And that's what someone else said is you watch players. Gomer said he watches players more than he watches teams. So all really, really good points. Yeah.
Yeah, totally fair.
Yep.
All right. Edmund asks what our go-to sources are. Obviously we are insiders, right? So we're always tweeting out the breaking news. Although
Parker and I just go to each other.
Yeah, I have had a lot of people, comment on my videos like, wow, I didn't even know this until you made a video about it. Cause I try to be quick, right? Like I want to have within like 20 minutes if I can, if it's something that I'm at least somewhat prepared for. But and he mentions on this message here, the Score, Sportsnet, TSN. It's never really any of those though, right? It's sort of if it's NHL or if it's Canucks news, especially, right? It's the either people who work for Sportsnet, but not really like Sportsnet themselves, or it's guys like Jeff Patterson, Thomas Durant, right? It's the insiders who actually are there and getting the information, making phone calls and tweeting it out. So my source is Twitter. I almost always have Twitter open, just sort of scrolling on the side. It's always there. So if something pops up, it pops up, and that's sort of where I get my info.
I agree with you. From a national standpoint, which I'm not saying is the better one, I think Elliot Friedman is quite connected, and he is usually accurate. He doesn't do a lot of clickbaity stuff. So I like Elliot Friedman. I think Darren Dreger generally is pretty good. But you're right, Parker. Locally, Rick Dollywall, so connected, very well respected. He basically has every agent on speed dial. So I try, and Dollywall doesn't like to sensationalize things like I better not say it just in case he's watching it. But I think Dollywall is the best. I agree with you, Jeff Patterson, Thomas Trance. And, there's other guys that maybe aren't as popular who often report really good stuff. Patrick Johnson is really good. I'm not saying he's not popular, but he may not have the same name cachet. And you know who else is kind of interesting? You mentioned Sportsnet personalities is Irfan Gafar, actually. And I've heard him talk about Tyler Mott being hurt. I've heard him talk about, contract things. So you're right. Generally, the people here are pretty good. They're not into making up stories for the most part. So I think we're very blessed, actually. And despite a lot of people think that the Canucks media is negative, remember, it was a tough season to cover the team. I do think we have some really good people here.
Oh, absolutely. And we actually get interesting coverage here. If we were Coyotes fans, there's not a lot to go with, right? I remember when the Ekman-Larsson trade broke, the guy who broke it was just a guy who worked for a random Arizona sports radio station that they don't really focus on the Coyotes that much, right? They're more focused on like the Cardinals down there. So, that's kind of interesting. And, there's just not a lot of coverage. Meanwhile, up here, we get all that. And while we mentioned where we get our news from, mostly on Twitter, you guys can follow us on Twitter. I'm at ParkersPucks. He's at Canuck Clay. Make sure you follow us because you get great tweets out of us. We're very entertaining. You get to see Clay dancing, just ripping strikes down the bowling alley. You get to see me be sarcastic. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah. It's Twitter it's funny. It's when used well, it can be very good. It can be very good. And I agree with you. The best and first place to get news of all sorts, not just sports.
Yeah. In general, though, Twitter is the worst. But
yeah, I hear what you're saying. Best and worst.
Yeah, but it is fun. And with that, we are right at our 11 o'clock mark as prescribed. So we're going to wrap up season 1. This is the end of season 1, 23 episodes strong, over 23 hours of content. Not a single one of our episodes is under an hour. They're almost all an hour and 4 minutes because it apparently takes us 4 minutes to wrap up, which seems kind of long. So stay strapped in for the next 4 minutes or so.
Yeah.
So we're going to wrap up season 1. Like we said, season 2 starts Monday at 10 p.m. Make sure you're there. Make sure you're subscribed to the Canucks After Dark YouTube channel if you want to tune in live. And if you're a podcast listener, make sure you're subscribed. And if you missed any part of the show, or if you want to go back to any big moments of our first season, if you want to go back to, listen to our thoughts on Connor Garland and Oliver Ekman-Larsson from July 23rd, you could do that. I don't know why you would, but you definitely can. And make sure, you're subscribed to both of our personal channels, ParkersPucks, Canuck Clay. Clay makes videos basically every day. I make videos whenever something interesting happens, which has not been a lot lately. But as the season gets going, we'll both be ramping up, I'm sure, making stuff for Canuck games, Canucks news, basically everything going on. And it's going to be a lot of fun.
And I won't go for 2 minutes just so we can get to 104, but it might end up that way anyways. I want to give a shout out to this man, Parker, because we joke around about it. He even tweeted about it today. This guy is usually in bed 2 hours ago. You guys know this, right? Oh, maybe not 2 hours ago. He's not like he's five years old.
An hour and a half ago.
Okay, but seriously, we know Parker is a early sleeper, but because he gets up early. I am a night owl. I'm just ramping up at 10. I'm 10 p.m. I'm getting ready to go. That's why all my streams are at 10. That's why Parker streams are like 4 or at 7. So having said that, Parker, this is your vision, man. You do the graphics, you do all the tech setup. You let me kind of just float in at 9:50, sometimes closer to 9:55, but we won't tell people. But it's been a lot of fun. You guys, Parker and I haven't even met in person yet. We had one phone call for about an hour to set all this up and a bunch of Twitter DMs. And look where we are. Still got a long way to go, but we're so grateful that you guys are here with us. And I'm so excited for what's going to happen and for a good team, for a continued good show. And we're very blessed that you guys have, especially if you've been with us since the very start. Leave a comment. If you've been with us since the very start in April, just show off a little bit and put that in the comment section.
Yeah, let us know when you did start listening, even if it wasn't right off the bat. I mean, I can look at the podcast stats, right? Our first show got, about 80 listens on the podcast platforms, and our latest ones are close to 300, which is super cool. And of course, we can talk about each other all we want, right? About me setting up the tech, Clay showing up and putting on a great show every week. But really, it comes down to you guys watching and listening, because if we didn't have people watching us, or, one of us didn't, if I didn't, this wouldn't have happened. So you guys coming out week in, week out, listening to us talk about random stuff while nothing happens in the NHL for a whole month and a half. It's really cool. So thank you guys. And we're just going to keep going, keep getting better. And it all starts next Monday, September 13th, 10 p.m. Season 2, kicking off the 2021-2022 season in style. Any parting words? Are we suiting up next Monday?
Man, we could talk about that as soon as we press stop, because guess what? We're at 104.
Okay, we got to wrap. We got to wrap.
Yeah, I'm excited. We'll see everyone next Monday.
Awesome. Thank you guys very much for tuning in. Again, if you missed any part of the show, you can rewind on YouTube, listen to the podcast, and we will talk to you guys next week.